Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are you doing today? So, what I said just a second ago with all the people that are, punctual for the show, what I said is we'll be doing a Protoss versus Zerg tutorial today, a guide that is designed to show you what is considered standards, what are the builds you can do, and how to scout your opponent to make sure you are allowed to do these builds. Also, probably a lot of this will still work in Heart of the Swarm. I mean, there are changes coming, and at some point in time, someone smart and smarter than me that's not too difficult will devise strategies which will kill this off right away. But for now, I think you can use them in both Wings of Liberty and after the launch, so they are pretty standard. There are going to be 3 parts of this show. One will be about doing an 8-gate, which is one of the best, I think, one of the best all-ins you can do. In Protoss vs Zerg, we'll be doing a kind of variation on 8-gate, which is awesome. Then we'll go and I will show you how to do a very popular build, which is 7-gate plus 2 attack, Stalker, Blink, attack, timing attack. And then the third part of the show will be about how to do a more defensive build, where you take up your third very quickly, and how to defend that. And also, in each part of this academy, we'll be taking a look at the Zerg perspective. So, what can you do when you're playing as a Zerg to defend against these strategies, or how to counteract them? So, I think we should get started, guys. Let's skip to our favorite game, which is Starcraft 2. And let's go to the replay I've called 8-gate. You won't be surprised what you find in there. What I want to show you, and I'll be doing this a little bit day 9 fashion, is a window with a notepad. Because a notepad is one of the greatest inventions of humankind, and I like to use it a lot, and I use it a lot every single day of my life. Okay, so what we will cast, or not cast, what we will show is a game that took place on Yegwen Master Cup, the first edition, and that's the final game between Tefel and also Kerr. So we'll speed things up. We don't want to watch the whole game. And as you can see, Kerr is the Protoss. No spoilers here. Kerr is the Protoss we'll be taking a look at. And his timings are nearly perfect. So I will show you this replay very fast to give you a picture of what he does and why it's so good. And after that, we will take a look into specific timings that happen during the game, and what's awesome about them and what's less awesome, what could be improved. So as you can see, he went for a Forge, the Nexus, Gateway, Cannon, a standard Protoss vs Zerg opening that pretty much everyone does at this point in time. I wonder where did the opening with 2 gateways go. It just disappeared. People got back to playing Forge Fast Expand. So anyway, he does a little bit of scouting. He sees the third base. He sees there is no second gas here. So let's take a pause. And if you take a look at Kerr, he scouted both of the gases, so he knows there's no gas. In the natural, he scouted both of the queens, which is ultra awesome. You know that the Zerg is going probably macro mode heavy, and you wouldn't even need to scout that because you saw the third base, and the third base always means there are no exceptions from this. Third base usually always means that the Zerg is going macro mode, and probably someone in GSL just disagrees with me, but that's GSL. Let's be frank, we're not playing at GSL's level. Alright, so what Crew will be doing is an 8-gate attack. He's already doing 8 gates. He went for an ultra fast warp gate research. He didn't go for a +1 upgrade, and now is the point where some of you may say, oh, but that's nonsense. Yes, everyone knows 8-gate as a strategy that MC has shown how to execute, and he does 8-gate +1 attack, which hits in 8-minute mark. At 8-minute mark. And that 8-minute mark is great. That's very early, and for most of the Zergs it's difficult to defend. But I will show you how Kerr improved on that idea and checked how to do it better. And you know, you will be the judges yourselves. You will say if it did go better. So we have the first warping of Stalkers, and we have the first warping of Zealots. So we now have both warpings, and if you check the time mark, it's 8:21. So the first wave of Stalkers, and you know, the first wave of Protoss forces. Let's move back a bit. The first wave of warpings happened at, ladies and gentlemen, at 7:40. Let me speed things up a bit. Yeah, 7:40. That's 20 seconds earlier than what MC did. And this is why I've got super excited about this build, and I wanted to do a show about it, because it's earlier than people thought it is even possible. And how did it achieve that? We will go into that detail in a second, but for now let's see what happens. So right now Zerg is thinking, okay, I have around 30 more seconds before I get hit with 8 gate. And you know, he starts preparing roaches, blah blah blah, and now, oh my god, there's a huge freaking army in my backyard. What do I do about it right now? Well, to be frank, my mate, not a lot you can do at this point, because 8 gate is one of the builds that if you don't scout for it properly and if you don't prepare, you probably are going to straight up lose if Protoss doesn't make too many major mistakes. A very nice defense, and I think Tefl did a horrific job of holding this up. We will analyze the battle itself later on, but you know, despite the best efforts, despite a very good micro from Tefl, Tefl wasn't able to fully defend what Kerr threw at him. And it was a close one, but I think it was a close one because both players were of a very equal level, not because the strategy that Kerr executed was any weaker. So let me show you now what are the corners that Kerr did cut, because you can't execute a strategy 20 seconds earlier because you're just, you know, you have this badge, oh, I'm 20% more awesome than everyone else. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to have specific timings, you need to have a very specific build, and you also need to cut corners or on where people would usually be afraid of. So let's rewind this game. Let's take a look at it again, right from the start, and I will note every single corner that has been cut, and also I'll bring my notepad up. Yeah, here you are, my good friend. Let me make it slightly smaller. You won't be losing anything. Oh, we can put it here. Right. So as the game progresses, yeah, there's a scouting probe. As you can see, he wants to check, okay, there's no extra early expansion. And by the way, one of the great reasons why this game is such an exemplary game is that Tefl goes for 14 pool, which is like 90% standard build for Zergs opening against Protosses on most of the maps. So it's not like a weird game that played out some way, and yes, it worked, but in most cases that attack would have just crashed. No, this is a Zerg playing exactly the standard way. You have 14 pool, then a queen, a hatchery at expansion, the third, very early third, a standard timing on the Roach Warren. Everything is pretty standard about this game, except what Kerr does. So we have a first gateway here, a cannon, which is okay, and then we will have one gas in the main. Only one gas in the main, and as we take a look further and further on, you will notice that this is the only gas that Kerr uses. So that's the first corner that Kerr has cut. Only one gas. Now, if you take only one gas to have more minerals income, that's a very risky move, but that's not the latest, sorry, that's not the last risky move that Kerr does. Now, he will go and scout again. Kerr is very good at scouting. He will go and scout again to check what's happening on the front. And what he'll notice is, okay, he has a third. I have confirmed my suspicions. He's going for a standard Zerg play. There are no gases in the natural, therefore I can afford what I'm doing. And he doesn't even produce a Zealot. You see? He chrono boosts wherever he can, he chrono boosts the Warp Gate tech, but he doesn't do a +1 upgrade. So we have here late Zealot, no +1 upgrade. Right? And then, you know, he goes for a Zealot right before the Warp Gate technology stops, which is great. And now, one of the things that I have been most impressed on, see for the gateway timings versus the cybernetic core Warp Gate tech, you know, finishing. If you check the Warp Gate timings, they are exactly the same as the Warp Gate tech. So as soon as the gateway opens, as soon as they are ready, he already can do the first wave of warpings, and this is what a lot of players make a mistake on. And you know, if you're a Gold League, Platinum, even Diamond, some of these things just don't, you know, they don't work together well. And you will do 8 gates, but then you will end up in a very awkward spot where you already have 8 gates, but the Warp Gate research is still going on, or you will have your Warp Gate research done, but 8 gates will still be in production, which is, you know, kind of awkward. And by this you lose a lot, and you lose like a minute or even 2 minutes into the game, because you need to sort out your timings, and this is a huge cost. What Kerr does is a perfect example of how to execute this in a way that would just work. So let's get back to the game itself. We have 7:57, that's you know, 7:40 was the time where he did the first warping. We have a second warping coming in right now, and that's it. Now, there is one more corner that Kerr cut in this game. One more corner that is having a stalker. Normally, Protosses go for a stalker so they can easily protect the probe that does the pylons around the map. And by the way, notice how great are these pylons. The one is put in a place where you wouldn't expect a pylon is useful. The second one is in a place which seems, okay, this is his back pylon. No, it is not. So if you destroy it, you still have this one. And the one that you will be actually using later on is this one, right next to the base of the enemy. And the fourth one is even closer than that. So eventually you prepare yourself, and you need to start preparing the pylons. You need to start preparing the pylons to assist you in your attack in exactly the time that you need them. You can't go, oh, I have a lot of units right now, it's, you know, it's time to run towards enemy base, and then you lose half a minute because it takes time for the stalkers and Zealot to catch up. You need pylons be prepared and ready at the time of the attack, otherwise you have just blotched your build. And if you miss out the timing on pylons, your whole attack gets delayed because your units have to run across the map. Now, back to the game itself. I think we have noted all of the corners that have been cut by Kerr, so there is no stalker to protect the probe. Yeah, that's correct. So these are all of the corners that Kerr has cut, and most of the players just wouldn't want to go and cut these corners. Why? Because it feels unsafe. It feels unsafe like hell. And oh, no upgrades? Zerglings will kill off my Zealots, and then you think, only one gas, I can't lose any stalkers. And that's exactly the sort of build that Kerr has went for. You know, it isn't an optimal build. No, it is a very fast, very aggressive build that you can do if you want to surprise your enemy, even at the highest of levels. I hope that makes sense to you guys. If you have any questions, please post them on the chat. I'm more than happy to answer. Going further, we have Warp Gate tech, which is why I noted this here is I want to note what the timings are on the specifics. So we will go into the battle itself at the end, and the engagement I think is one of the most exciting parts about this match, even though a lot of things here just click perfectly. So let's see what are the Warp Gate tech. Sorry, what is the Warp Gate tech timing? Dum 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 dum. again, speed things up. And the probe stands here. Yes! I'm the protector. No, I'm not. I'm back to mining minerals. This balloon here is floating over the... You know, guys, what always makes me curious is if there's a lot of units on the ground and there are workers mining here. Just take a look, you know, you have workers mining. And then I would imagine from time to time they would just take a look around the clear sky. And against the clear sky you would most definitely see something big and ballsy and probably leaking of creep. And in Starcraft 2, they are completely unaware that something is floating. I don't know if these units perhaps have a problem with their spline or something like that, and they cannot look up. They are focused, they are so damn focused on mining minerals. But anyway, let's get back to what we have here. So the cybernetic score was, I think, 2 or 3 seconds late than it could have been. So it's not exactly perfect. But we have already warp gate started at 5:30 and a couple. And let's see where it will be finished. Please notice that it is being constantly chrono boosted. Whoop-de-doop-de, whoop-de-doop-de, whoop-de-doop-de-doo. And the warp gates are already here. They are being prepared to be ready at the exactly same time that the warp gate. Boink. So it's 7:28, 7:30 we can say, and at this point in time we have both 8 gates prepared, and we have the warp gate tech. So it's 7:30, and it's exactly the same timing for the warp gate tech and all of the 8 gates. Now the question is, what about pylons on the map? So if we take a look at the pylons on the map, we also have 1, 2, and 3rd being warped in very shortly. So you need to have pylons prepared exactly for your timing. Pylons on the map, you know, you start warping them in after 7:30. So as you can see, this has taken into account the fact that the warp gate tech has been chrono boosted. You know, normally you would say, okay, so how much does a warp gate tech take? It takes 160 seconds. Okay, how much does a warp gate take to warp in? It takes 65 seconds. That's all awesome. So I will warp my warp gates, you know, around 90 seconds mark in the warp gate technology. But what Kerr did is a very measured approach, because he knew exactly how long it is going to take him to finish warp gate research, and then he knew that exactly at this point in time, not 160 seconds after the warp gate tech, no, he knew what was the time it takes for warp gate tech to finish with being chrono boosted, and he has done a calculation before the games, before preparing himself. This is the part where it really pays off when you prepare yourself. If you know the timings, you know how long does stuff take, you know how you can optimize your builds, this is where it all pays off, because you just know what is exactly the point in the game you need to put down your warp gates so they are finished at the right spot. Alright, so let's move on, let's move back to the game. I'm noting these timings in the notepad, so you can use that as a reference when you're watching this on YouTube or later on. Just a lot of people requested it. Okay, so the last timing I want to note, and we already mentioned that, is the timing of where stuff actually gets warped in. You know, where someone calls Ire by their mobile phone and says, listen, we need more zealots, we need more stalkers. Doom, 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 doom. We already know that. It's 7.32 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 7.30. So warp timings are 7.40. That's exactly the warp timing you can do after changing your gateways. Bom, 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 bom. Okay. And the next timing takes place at around 8:15. So that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point where you can actually warp in the zealots. So zealots are at 8:15. 8:15. All right. So these are the most important timings about the game itself, all noted here in this notepad. You can take a screenshot, you can note them down, they will be also in the comments to this video, so you can use them at your leisure. It's all good. Now let's take a look at the most exciting part, which is the ground engagement. So we have been preparing ourselves for so freaking long. Now let's see how it goes. We will watch it on normal because there are lots of little things that happen and might have changed the outcome here. So first, as you can see, Kerr does focus on the queen. Queen knows it's going to fall, so he, it does the last inject on this hatchery. Now, you don't want to go and start chasing off the probes because they move faster than you, and it's not very effective, so he has focused the hatchery for a bit. Then some Zerglings did came, and notice that Kerr doesn't have enough gas for a lot more Stalkers warpins. He has exactly 8 Stalkers. That's what he had at the start of the game. That's what he had in his bank account. He won't have more for a bit. So one of the most interesting points in this strategy is that you can't lose your Stalkers. If you start losing your Stalkers, you're screwed. They are the main force, so to speak. You can fuel off as many Zealots as you want to your army, and they will be cool. They will keep dying. They will be teleported back to Ire, then get transported to dragons. Sorry, there are no longer dragons. Transported to immortals, and yeah, eventually they will get back to a different battlefield some other age, some other time. But when it comes to Stalkers, they just fall apart. They don't get teleported back to Ire, and if you lose them, you're screwed. So please notice how Kerr exactly takes care of the Stalkers here. He doesn't allow them to be attacked, and the Zealots, they just go into the meat grinder, man. They are not very important for this engagement. And right now the Stalkers keep focusing the Roaches. Why? Because the Roaches deal most damage to the Zealots, and also Roaches are most dangerous to the Stalkers themselves. So Kerr right now, okay, I don't have any more Zealots. Oh, I have lost a Stalker, not very good. He needs to move back. He warps in more Zealots. There's a Spine Crawler coming right up. But, you can't allow that to Spine Crawler to happen, so another wave of cannon fodder being warped in. Now the focus on Spine Crawler, it gets taken. Please notice that Tefl does a very nice thing with the Overlords. If you move your Overlords above a fighting army, then what you actually do is soak some damage. The Overlords are great at soaking damage, and if the player isn't skilled enough to focus, your specific units, then at some point in time the Stalker will be thinking, okay, I want to attack something, I have been ordered to attack the freaking ground, so I will pick the closest target, and since there are no Roaches in my range, then I will attack the Overlord. So instead of moving forward and being a part of the battle, the Stalker decides to shoot some flying balloon over his head, which is not very effective. And Overlords have 200 health, so that's even more than Roaches. So just micromanaging your Stalkers to kill off Roaches is extra important, and also as a Zerg player, it's great that you do this micro with Overlords, because it's one of the reasons that can save your ass potentially in this engagement. Now, as you can see, things get a little bit tough for Kerr at this point. Most of his units are at low health, but he does a wondrous thing, and a magic happens exactly at this point. 1 sentry, 1 force field, and 4 Roaches dead. This is where it hasn't been calculated, guys. No, it has been a freaking miracle. So, a very skilled miracle at that point, but it has still been a miracle. So Kerr right now, okay, he already has a big advantage. Another wave of Zerglings coming coming his way. And they are biting off the ankles of all the Zealots. They get teleported back to Ire unwillingly. But hey, you can already see that Kerr has a decent advantage, and we have GG. So that's basically how this whole 8K attack works. You need to care very much for your Stalkers. You need to care not to lose your zealots too quickly. So to do that, you need to keep them close together with your stalkers. And eventually, you may decide that you want to spawn a sentry or two. You won't have an abundance of gas. You are very short on gas. You don't create additional workers during this. No, all your resources are dedicated to this attack. You just keep fueling the zealots and from time to time a stalker or two, but you can't keep losing. So it's all a struggle between maintaining the pressure but also maintaining your stalker numbers, if that makes sense to you guys. Alright, so this is the part number 1. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much, and remember there's a subscribe button above this video. For those of you who are watching this live, we will now have a short break where you can ask your questions about the strategy. And I'll try to answer them as best as I can, and then we'll move on to replay number 2 and 3 in a matter of minutes. So I'll be right back with you guys, don't go anywhere.